Let me introduce the panel. We have Nick Fair, that has been the person designing and implementing this course. I am Stefano Modafferi, and I am working in the data market service project, and I am responsible for this service. And finally, we have Stephen Phillips, that is the product manager of the SSM tool, that is the hands-on tool on risk assessment and analysis that we are going to use. Also, I want to say that we are in the context of data market service, that is a European project. And we are the IT Innovation Center, that is a group within the Electronic Computer Science School within the University of Southampton. And I believe this is it for me. I will hand over to Nick to chair the next part of this webinar.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. Welcome Victoria. Nice to see you join us. Thank you for logging in. So just a quick review of what we're going to do in this webinar. We'll start off with some introductions, just a little bit of getting to know who you are. Obviously, you've just heard a little bit about us. Then we're going to explore a little bit more about sort of why you're here and what you want to get from things, what we're calling engaging with each other. We've got some questions and things for us to sort of focus our thinking on that. After that, we'll have a quick look at some of the basics to do with risk analysis, just to sort of see if we can learn a little bit to get us going and get us a little bit excited. After that, we will then look in a little bit of detail at what's coming in the course, but not spend too long on that because, of course, the course will be open for you to enjoy afterwards. And then the final thing we'll do is to get everyone enrolled on the course, make sure everyone understands the sort of instructions that you need for all the various different considerations that are around this course. And then the webinar will finish and you'll be free to engage with the course in your own time, as and when you like. So, if we move firstly on to a little bit of introducing yourselves to us. It'd be very nice if we could get an idea of who we're talking with here, and of course who you're talking with each other. So if you wouldn't mind typing in some information in answers to these questions, we can see your name, but it's for other people to be able to see as well. Then who do you work for, what is your role, and why are you interested in this course? Thank you. Okay, so we're just waiting for some of those answers to come in. Let us know if you're having any trouble with any of the equipment. Can you see and hear us okay? Thank you, Manu. Manu says he's from the University of Southampton. Elena, project manager at Visio. And Elena is interested because we deal with the GDPR on a daily basis during product development and website development. So GDPR is your focus there, Elena. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. Utrig, CEO, says it's a very needed area for her data startup. Would like to speak separately after class to ask questions about a particular startup, maybe. Yes, we can see what we can do about that one, Victoria. Remind us again when we get towards the end. And Elena tells us that her business is an artificial intelligence company. Right. It sounds perfect, yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Victoria and Elena. That's very kind. Very useful for us to know as well. Thank you. Okay. We'll see if Daria comes through for us in a moment. Don't worry, Daria, we can always come back and chat about that if you do. Yep. Okay. So, moving on. We're going to, here we go, Daria. Thank you. So, project manager in Visio. AI visual intelligence solutions provider. Okay, yep. And interested because both the company and the H2020 projects have some relevance to the cybersecurity. Okay, that's great. So it's interesting. We've got some, I think, perhaps coming more from the cybersecurity angle and one or two coming from the GDPR angle.
Yeah.
We'll cover off a bit of both of that later on through the course of this webinar. If at any time you have any questions or anything you want to ask us, please type them in. We are monitoring that, and we shall attempt to respond to you immediately. If there's things you'd like to ask us above and beyond the course, then send us a message towards the end of the module, towards the end of the webinar, I should say, and we'll try and get back to you if we can.
Yeah, just maybe what we can say is that this webinar is the actual part of the training course, but it's just 1 hour, and then you will have many more hours of content and interactive elements that you can play with. So we will not conclude everything in this webinar. You will do it on your own time and pace.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the webinar is just a little taster to get everybody interested. And to start that off, we're going to put some questionnaire or poll questions up into the window. Hopefully this will work. So you should see a question appear any second now with the possibility of some answers. And just please select the answer that best suits you. First question is, how experienced in risk analysis are you?
Yeah, by the way, all these questions, there is not right or wrong, for sure not in this first step. It's just that we want to understand a bit the audience of the course and what is your background, just that.
Okay, so let's share the results of that poll. And here we are. Nobody's advanced. We've got, I guess that would probably be one person in medium and the majority of people at beginner level. Okay, well that's perfect because the course has been written really at the beginner to intermediate kind of stage level. So that works very well. Okay, let's move on to our next question. And here we ask you, why are you interested in risk analysis? You've given us some idea of that, but there's some choices here for you to choose from. Okay, this is interesting. Great, we've got everybody voted now, so let's have a look at the results. And here we are, very interesting. So some people have direct responsibility for risk assessment. We know that, I think Victoria is the owner, and at least one person's in this area wants to improve the company's offerings. Okay, brilliant. Anything that catches your eye there, Stephen or Stefano?
I think it's just, okay, we will go through the also instruments later. There are some collaborative forum, like there is a forum that you will be able to use if you like. So there is also a chance for you to have peer-to-peer interactions, not necessarily passing through us, as a tool in the course that can work well if you come from different angles to address risk assessment.
Absolutely, it's always great to share your knowledge with other people. Okay, thanks everyone. Let's move on to the next question. And this is asking you about what it is you hope to get from this course. Again, we've had a little thought about this already, but here are some options for you to pick from. Just waiting for one more person to vote. There we go, brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at the results.
Okay. Now, in this case, there are 2 right and 2 wrong answers. not necessarily in the sense that the right answer is the first and the third. So what I think you will get is a better understanding how to perform risk assessment, and also you will get a useful tool for risk assessment. This is something you definitely will get through this course. What you will not get, it's everything about GDPR, because what we will see are elements of GDPR and their connection with the risk analysis. So there is a module around that, but we will not claim, you should not expect that the GDPR is considered or explained in all its aspects.
Sorry, Stefano. However, I think it's important to stress that the most important features of GDPR relating to risk assessment are there. It's just we can't claim that every single aspect of GDPR is there. That
was the word of warning I wanted to share with you. So you will get something around GDPR, something we think interesting, and also maybe a different angle to understand what GDPR is about. That you will get. We will never claim that we are able to give you a label saying that you are GDPR compliant or something like that.
That's right.
And this links with the last option that no one has picked. So you will not be able to use the tools you have for having any form of certificate of the system.
Yeah.
So this is important to set the expectation at the right level.
Great, thank you, Stefano. Let's move on to our next one. And here we're asking a little bit more about your practical experience. Have you ever seen or have you ever used a risk assessment tool? Well, that was quick and easy. So 100% of people have not ever seen or used a risk assessment tool. Well, that's great. So as you work through the course that follows on from this webinar, the first part of the course will introduce you to some of the background and the basics and the theory. But in the second part, you will have a chance to get hands-on with the tool that Stephen and Stefano and others here have developed, which should help you to make that whole risk assessment process far more approachable and understandable. So that's perfect really for you guys. And this one we will skip. And finally, we shall ask about this. Here we're asking about your experience in modeling systems. So have you ever tried to model some of the networks in your business, some of the security systems you may already have? And if so, how much modeling have you done? Okay, we're just holding on for one more vote. Okay, I think we should stop there. Someone hasn't quite put their vote in, but don't worry, it's fine.
It's okay.
And here are the answers, and perhaps as we had predicted, actually, many of you are asking, what is system modeling? So perhaps over to Stefano or to Stephen to talk about this one.
I think we will. You will understand this better when you will actually follow the proper module in the course. Here, the basic idea, what I can say, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the tool we offer you, it's not, a checklist or best practice or guideline that it's the common way of seeing a risk assessment tool. What we offer you is a tool where you can draw the assets, actors, connections of ICT and human elements in your scenario, and we perform some analysis around that to tell you what are the risks related to cybersecurity or compliance with GDPR. So everything starts from you designing, drawing on a canvas your own system in terms of assets, persons, and relationships.
Yeah, this will make a lot more sense to you when you actually get to see and play with the tool. And you'll see a screenshot later on in this webinar. And the basic idea is that you would use our tool to visualize in a very clear and simple way all of the things in your network. That's people, that's software, that's hardware, that's places, and other things too, like jurisdictions for GDPR. And you can see how all of those things are related to each other. And by doing that, you are building a system model. And we can use that model within the tool to identify places where there may be security weaknesses, and then what measures you could take to address some of those weaknesses. So that's really what we mean by system modeling. And that's the approach that we take here at SSM, rather than, like Stefano said, following some kind of a checklist. We actually try and model the system so you can see it in its full glory, so to speak. Okay, brilliant. Thank you everyone for that. Now, the next part of us moving on to here, given that we have established that most of us are kind of beginner or at best sort of intermediate type level, we don't have a lot of experience with modeling systems. We're going to just have a few little fun quiz questions here. Again, there's no right or wrong answers. It's not a pass or fail. This is just really to get us thinking about some of the basic things we need to understand as we move into looking at cybersecurity risk analysis and modeling the system. So there's going to be a few more questions popping up on the screen. Just carry on answering in the way that you have been, and we shall stop and talk a little about them and give you some more information as we do. So here's the first one. Which of these are part of a cyber environment? In this instance, it is possible to select more than one answer. So you might want to select more than one if you wish, otherwise. Okay, good. We've got some good answers coming in. Very interesting answers so far. I think we're just waiting for one more vote to be cast. Okay, there we go. So let's have a look at these results. Stefano, these are interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay, let's say it's the answer we consider correct is the second and the third, and they reflect two different ways of looking at the systems. While the first and the fourth, maybe you can put the slides on so it's more interesting to see the slides.
Yep. Thank you.
It's coming. Yeah, it came. So the idea is that the cyber environment is a system in which you have persons working, interacting with ICT elements and ICT elements that are connected through networks. So that is a way of looking at that. But also, you can look at that in a way that specialize this general concept in classes that you can see as assets. That includes also the users, relationships, but also the threats that are in the system and the misbehavior that can characterize the system that is under attack or is exploited in some way. So the first and the fourth, as I said, are limiting what we consider as just a subset of the cyber environment. The second and third are right. Also, you can look at the infographic for having some information around that, and they reflect two different ways of looking at the system. Why I'm stressing this? Because going back to the concept of system modeling we were talking before, everything can be modeled at a different level, at a different level of abstraction, and this is up to whoever is performing the risk assessment to decide which granularity is correct, to not get mad around the single bit, or not to overlook things because it's just design a black box with an input and an output, not knowing anything inside that. And we should always consider this. But as far as the answer to this question, it's just a system includes persons, ICT elements, relationships, among them threats and misbehavior.
Yeah, so some of the key things to pick up out of there is if we look at the answer number 2, the one, the people, machines, locations, and so on, the key thing about this is that any kind of a cyber environment does not exist only of the hardware and the software. It also has to include the people and the places and the rules and the laws and all sorts of other wider social factors that have an influence on how a network behaves. Now, at the academic level, that's referred to as socio-technical theory. At the modeling of a system level, we think of it in terms of assets, relationships, and then threats and misbehaviors. Threats there is a situation or an action which can cause a bad thing to happen, and the misbehavior is the bad thing itself happening.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. And our next question asks us, how do we calculate risk? And here we're talking about cybersecurity risk, of course. How do we calculate risk? Any thoughts, any guesses, any knowledge? Okay, great. Well done. Here are the results. And most people have correctly chosen that risk is calculated by looking at impact and likelihood. Now, let's move on to the next of our slides, where we can explore a couple of those ideas in a little more detail. Over to you, Stefano.
Yeah, this is just a definition. So if you go for the risk definition, it's the possibility of something bad happening at some time in the future, as in the dictionary. The way it is calculated, it's the impact plus the likelihood. So we need to consider if something happened, what is the impact of this something happening, but also how much likely is that something is happening. Because if, for instance, a very high impact with a super low likelihood will not really matter. You may simply accept it because it's more costly to address it rather than accept it. This is about strategy. We will talk later, and in the course you will find something like that. But the idea is that you cannot consider in isolation either the impact or the likelihood. You need to consider them together to make an assessment of the risk you're facing.
Yeah, that's right. So impact in this case is the effect of the bad thing happening. It could be a whole range of different things. It could be something quite minor, such as you lose access to a particular data file for a couple of hours, or it could be something very major, such as you lose your entire customer records and expose yourself to all sorts of potentially criminal prosecutions under GDPR. The likelihood, another way to think about that is probability. So what is the probability of the bad thing happening? So those two things are completely interlinked when it comes to trying to calculate risk. You can't have one without the other.
And also just the cause is not part of the risk. The cause is just something that exposes a system to risk or can create an impact, but it is not part of the risk in itself.
That's right. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Don't forget, if you've got any questions you want to ask us about any of this as we go along, please do send them in. If I'm missing any, let me have a check on whether I've missed any to date. I don't think I have done. Victoria, yeah, no, okay. But if you've got any questions you want to ask us about any of the things that we're talking about, don't hesitate to send them in on the text, and hopefully we should pick them up and we can talk about them with you. Okay, next question then. What is the difference between design time and runtime security? Sometimes design time is called security by design. So what is the difference between design time and runtime security? Okay, I can see people having a little think about this one. Looks like we're doing pretty well here. Let's have a look at the results together.
Oh, great. We don't need to comment on this.
Yeah.
Everyone got it right.
That is the right answer indeed.
Yeah, the reason why we put this question is first to be clear, second because the tool you will get in this course, you will get your hands on in this course, works completely at the same time. We do not cover runtime risk management. So everything from the theory to the tool is based on the same time approach, just to be clear.
Yeah, so it's about building, modeling and designing, not about firefighting problems after they arise. Okay, our next question for you. Also, if at any time we're going too fast or we're speaking too quickly or you can't understand us, again, please let us know. We can always change the speed we speak and how fast we move from one thing to the next. Okay, our next question. What are the main stages of a cybersecurity risk analysis? People having a good think about this one. If you're not sure, just have a guess.
Yeah, so that is not.
It's not a test. Okay, so let's have a look at what people thought. And
yeah,
here we can see we've got a 50-50 split.
Yeah, the second one, I cannot say, we consider the right one the fourth. The second one is still acceptable under certain conditions. What is there missing is probably the implement and monitor part. So we always think that you need to, it's an iterative process, and you need also to keep the analysis up to speed because new threats can come out or systems can change. So you need to do the analysis, implement the controls, and see what's happening both at the theoretical level and practical level to keep the analysis ongoing. So this is not an exercise that you do once for all. Probably you wouldn't do it every day, but every now and then you need to repeat it to be sure that your system is still assessing and mitigating the risk in the right way.
Yeah, I believe, Stephen, there's under some of the standards and suggested ideas that you should try and do this, at least once a year?
So, well, for ISO 27001, which is a certification, it's renewed every year. For this process, 27005 should be, as it says on the slide, ongoing monitoring. Anytime there's a change in the system, the risks should be assessed.
Great, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, each time you make a change to your system, especially any significant one, it's worth doing another risk assessment. Okay, great. Let's move on to our next question. Not too many to go now. And here we have, what is the main potential risk factor in a cybersecurity environment? Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. These are all potential risks, but what do you think is the most likely risk, source of risk? Just give everybody a chance to vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's what we think.
Yeah, most of you got it right. It's human. The human in the loop is the problem when you do risk assessment. Why this? Because humans are the less compliant actor in a risk assessment, in a risk-prone environment. You can trust or not trust human, and we have an element of that in the course. but you can never assume that a human will always comply with whatever is in the best practice or to-do list or processes description that is given. This is human nature. It's much more reliable a network connection because you can patch it, you can put the controls there and they will work to some extent rightly, mostly. Human is less reliable.
Yeah, absolutely. And in simple terms, of course, as you well understand, machines tend not to suffer from getting tired or becoming angry or becoming distracted by other things. Those are just some of the minor things that humans can get up to, let alone some of the more major, deliberate and malicious types of attacks that humans can launch and various other things like that. So, yeah, humans must be an important factor when you model your system. This is why we say a cyber environment is much more than just the hardware and the software. It must also include the human assets in your system. Right, moving on to another question. This one seems very philosophical. I'd be quite happy to hear anyone's answers if they wish to get philosophical with us, but here we are actually talking about trust in the cybersecurity sense of the term. So why does trust matter? Okay, great. So let's have a look at the answers. We've got a bit of a division here. This is good to see. So some people have chosen each answer here. Stefano, what do you think?
Okay, what we consider the right one would be the first, because the second and the third are scenarios that might happen, but not necessarily happen in all the cases. So in that case, you need a degree of trust. So if you have a transaction happening somewhere on a third-party space, you need that. But you have instruments for enforcing them or for assuring that. What is not possible is for a human to do a complete risk assessment of the situation. We do risk assessment in any action we do in our life, even crossing the road. We are doing a risk assessment. Can I pass even if the traffic light is not green for me, and things like that. So the human life is a constant risk assessment exercise, but we do it on not on data or actual data or grounded data. We do it a lot on trust. So if I see a car approaching, I know that I will have the time to pass because it will slow down because they have seen me. So I'm trusting the car to slow down and not to hit me. These type of things are very important. So trust is important because we don't have the ability of doing all the assessment like car velocity or car whatever, and we need to rely on others doing what they're supposed to do. And this is the same in a cybersecurity environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea of being a user, a customer, someone, a partner, may not be in the position to be able to make a fair assessment of the security of your system. Hence why taking action and then often being open about that, communicating to customers and partners that you're compliant with GDPR, that you meet the standards suggested in the ISO 27000 regulations, that you've taken actions about secure passwords and the like. That type of communication can strengthen trust in your business. So cybersecurity becomes not just a question of keeping your business safe, but it also becomes one of becoming a trusted business that people want to use.
Yeah, and we have seen a company exposed to serious security breaches and problems that have seen their own business going down because of that, because people stopped trusting their ability to manage data or transactions and things like that.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on from trust, let's move now into some of these areas that can help to build trust, such as compliance. And our next question for you here is, why is regulatory compliance, for example GDPR, part of risk analysis? Again, it may be possible to select more than one answer here if you wish. Okay, one more person to vote, I think. Great, thank you. And let's have a look at the results. Again, a good spread here, Stefano.
Yeah. So this was deliberately a tricky set of answers. What we think is that the first and the second answers, so compliance can, the two that are compliance can build trust in users and partners is just what we discussed. And also non-compliance has a high negative impact because maybe you can lose the trust of your customers, but also in much more concrete way, you can get fined if you're not compliant, and this can be a serious problem with the amount of money that is now required as fine or provided as fine.
It can shut your business down if you're a small business with a heavy fine.
The reason why we tend to say that the third one is not as accurate as it should be is that the compliance itself does not protect your staff and business, but being compliant requires you to add controls to your system and practice to your system that will in turn protect your staff and your business. So the third one was a difficult one, but the reason why we don't consider it accurate is that because it's something enabling or supporting the compliance that protects you, not the compliance in itself.
Great, thank you. Okay, any questions on that one? Oh, I noticed that Olga's managed to join us. Welcome, Olga.
Hello.
Nice to see you. So while we're there, let's move on then to our next question. Oh no, I think
we're done.
Yes, we are done. Brilliant.
Just a word. So this wasn't designed to give you all the information that you will get in the course. We decided to address few key topics.
That's right.
As introduction to give you a flavor of the type of approach we want to follow and the main points that we think you should know, kind of as preliminary point before starting the course. But you will find many more information accurate with infographics and interactivity as well in the complete course.
That's right, and we're going to have a look at that just now. So moving on from learning a little bit of the basics and having a flavour of some of the things that you will cover in this course, let's look a little bit more in detail about exactly what will be covered. To start with, the course will be divided into two main parts. The first part of the course, the beginning modules, are theoretical. By that we mean we're going to explore some of the basic ideas around cybersecurity, then some of the more advanced sort of theoretical concepts. We will look at things like GDPR and compliance, and we will look at things like trust in a network. And then the final modules, the last three, are the practical modules where you will get your hands on the SSM tool and learn how to build a system and model it. So let's have a look at that in a little more detail. So we start off naturally with the basics, some of the things we looked at today about a cyber environment. We'll explore in greater depth what we mean by risk, what is impact, likelihood, and trustworthiness. And then we'll look at some strategies for processing and addressing these types of risks. Moving on to module 3, we get a little bit more theoretical. We look at the importance of knowledge bases and domain models. These are the sort of underpinnings of the system that SSM uses to be able to assess threats and risk. We will then look at some of the science of how we actually model things like threats and how we model controls. And then we will look at a set of recognized international standards or collections of existing threats. And that's helped to inform some of the information within the SSM tool as well. You'll notice here that most of these modules will end with a little quiz. As always, these quizzes are not about passing and failing. They're not tests. They're just there to help you remember things and to help you understand your learning. So no need to get stressed about things like quizzes. After we've looked at some of the theory, we'll move into looking at some of the compliance areas. We'll look at, in particular, at some of the standards and regulations and governance that apply to cybersecurity, with the ISO 27000 family being one of the important ones. And we will have a quick overview of GDPR. We will come back to GDPR later in the course in much more detail. And then our final module in the theoretical part of the course addresses the ideas we were just talking about around trust, trustworthiness, and humans in the network. And we'll look at some of the interesting debates in this area around public versus private information and things like social engineering, which in our terms means things like spear phishing attacks and other types of attacks designed to manipulate humans. After we finish the theoretical part, we will move on to the hands-on practical part where we use the SSM tool. And this is what we were talking about earlier. So within the SSM tool, you can see that you model your network. You can see there the network map in the middle with a series of assets linked together with a series of relationships. And we will help you to understand how this tool works and how to use it to build your own networks by the end of this module. We will do that by, first of all, exploring some of the basics and building a simple model, and then looking at a much more advanced real use case model. But a couple of words of warning about the SSM tool. Over to Stefano to help us understand these.
Okay, so first of all, it is still a beta version of the software, and so you need to consider that. That's why also we said that you cannot consider it for any certification or legal assessment of what is your system. That's not a tool for. What is a tool for? And also we will cover it later, but you will need to sign a EULA disclaimer so that you can use it basically at your own risk. Also, the response time is going to be improved. You will see that some part of the tool require a fair amount of time. Please be with us. This is something that the team is working very hard to solve and improve, but we couldn't release in time the new version for this course, so you need to just accept that and maybe get a coffee in the meanwhile. And also, please remember that the tool works only with Chrome. With other browsers, it has a kind of erratic behavior. So feel free to try. Don't ask us why it's doing something. And also, we are happy to give access to your colleague. Maybe if you think you are not the right person to do this, or we received your email, but you think someone else within your company should do it instead of you or in addition to you. That is possible within the time frame of the course that is going to close in October. Yeah. But to do that, you need just to send an email to me and not follow the sign-in process present in the software, because that is not the way we are granting you access in this specific case.
Yeah. So in summary, the model itself, the software itself is undergoing continuous improvements, of course, and the version you have will in places have a slow validation time, but that is being addressed, but bear with it for now, and make sure you only open it in Chrome, otherwise it won't work very well for you. Great, thank you, Stefano. Okay. So moving on, what are we actually going to do when we get our hands on this tool? So first of all, we'll just get started with it. Here, we're going to learn all the important basic bits. So how do we model the network? In other words, the assets and the relationships, and then validating that that model is correctly built. Then we will explore and discover what the SSM tool can offer you in terms of information. It has a number of panels and explorers that can help you drill down in some detail to various parts of your network where there might be security vulnerabilities, and to look at the threats and misbehaviors in those specific cases. We'll also look briefly at understanding the different levels, particularly here we're talking about risk levels as well as impact and likelihood levels. Then we'll look at some of the controls. By controls, obviously we're talking about the security measures that you can put in place to mitigate against the risk that has been identified. And then you'll get your hands onto the tool and start building, identifying and controlling a simple network. You will then take that same network on into the next module, where we will look at compliance and GDPR in detail specifically. You'll notice that we cover a number of the different articles in GDPR. One are concerning lawful basis, the other are concerning logging or recording requirements, one relating to the jurisdictions and supervising authorities, and finally a really important one relating to special category personal data. We will then go back to the tool and see how SSM can help identify some of the areas where you may be at risk of not complying with GDPR and what types of controls or measures you might have to take to become compliant with GDPR. But a reminder that this is not the entirety of the GDPR documentation and not everything is covered. And finally, to show you how we can move from simple models and simple networks to looking at much more complex systems, we will explore a real-world case of something called the factory of the future, where you'll understand what that is. You will have a chance to try and model that yourself from scratch. Good luck, because that's not an easy one. And then you'll be able to see how your model compares to the model that we built of this same scenario, and hopefully you can learn a few more advanced techniques of how to build these models at that point.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you don't know what is factory of the future, it's perfectly fine. It's just an example, and it's within the much more famous Internet of Things class. So the factory of the future can be seen as a specification of Internet of Things, just so it's maybe more appealing and close to what you can meet or you will meet in your own business.
Yeah, I'm interested as well to see the AI net models and systems that get built by the Envisio guys. That'd be interesting. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the course, and as you see, we've had a little taster of some of the course information already in the webinar. As time is pushing on, let's get down to some of the practical things that is worth us trying to complete at this point. So, while we're all here together, it's worth enrolling onto the course, first of all. We'll deal with that in a moment. Prior to that, however, hopefully you should all be able to see in your webinar interface panel a section called Handouts. I'd be very grateful if you could let me know about this, because we're not sure how well this is going to work. But in the section called Handouts, you should hopefully see a file called SSM Access Agreement. Could you let me know if you can see that or not, just with a quick yes or no? Okay, Manu says he can get it. That's good news. Hopefully the rest of you can see it there as well. Ah, Victoria, you can't. Okay.
I would say, don't worry too much, in the sense that it is anyway available on the course. So after you have enrolled at the beginning of the module 6, you can see, you can download it anyway from there. So it's anyway for Victoria. It's in the panel is under. You will see something like attendees, and then maybe polls. We're not sure because it depends on the interface, and then hands out, and that's where you can find the file.
Sometimes the handouts can be a bit unreliable, so this is why we're...
Okay, I suggest if someone cannot get it now, can either write an email to me. I will be happy to send the document, or can download from module 6.
Yeah, so Stefano's email is the one you can see on the screen at the moment, SM at...
Without the dot, I don't know why it's there.
We shall deal with that straight away.
Don't worry, don't know, it's complicated.
It's better if we get the right one up there. There we go. Okay, so now that's the correct email. Anybody else had any luck finding the handout? SSM Access Agreement Final. Don't worry if you haven't, as Stefano says, it is available within the course. However, the thing to note here is that you will not be able to start using the SSM tool until you have returned to us the completed end user agreement, the access agreement.
Yeah, I don't know, I think it's clear now, but we have two environments. One environment is the learning environment on the website. We will enroll on that, and you will get it straight away, access to that. The tool itself is a different address on a different web page, and because no other courses are dealing with actual use of tools within data market service, we had to provide a specific ULA for that one, and that's why you need this. So you will get access to the training, but not to the tool unless you sign the ULA.
That's right.
And in my opinion, let me say this, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to do the course without using the tool.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, yeah. The hands-on part's the important part. So, Elena, no, we're not sending them by email. Somewhere on your interface with the webinar software, where you're currently seeing the slides coming up, there should hopefully be a panel called Handouts.
Anyway, Nick, I think we can keep it simple and short. I will send an email with the link to download it to all the participants of this webinar.
Okay.
So
okay, great.
You will receive an instruction email with the link to download it.
Yeah. But just remember, you can't use the SSM tool until such time as you've returned that to us.
It practically works that you will need a different user name and a different password for the tool, and we will give you that only when you have given back us the signed ULA.
That's right. Great. Okay. Well, there we go. It was interesting to find out that the handouts are not particularly useful. Thank you for helping us learn that. Yeah, we'll send you that email through shortly after the end of the course, end of the webinar, sorry.
The other things to say in this slide, I think, Nick, is that you will have access to the course and the SSM up until the end of the month. That is the time frame we have set. After that, your access will be closed. And I would think there's plenty of time to complete the course. It's not very long, and you can do it at your own pace. And also that as at Innovation, we are very interested in talking to you for commercial opportunities around the risk assessment, risk analysis, because we provide the services as well outside the DMS. So for now, everything is free for you because you have to sign up to the course, to the project. For further interaction, maybe ad hoc discussion, we are happy to have them if you are interested, whenever you are interested.
Great, thank you, Stefano. Okay, so let's move on now then to try and enroll on the course. To do so, you should follow this link, and in a moment I'll go there myself and take you through what you need to do. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. The course is free, of course, so there's no worries about that sort of thing. You can actually access the course once you set up your details as much as you want for as long as you want. However, as Stefano said, your access to the tool will only be available until the end of this month. For the first week of the course, there will be some of us here to try and see if you have any problems, see if you've got to answer any questions. But generally speaking, give us a little bit of time to respond to anything you might.
Yeah, I think that up to the end of the month, we commit to provide as form of support. So what for the course and for the tool is just done with a best effort approach. So we will answer as soon as we can. It can be, a day or two to answer.
That's right.
Hopefully less, but we don't know. We cannot commit to less than that.
So hopefully you have made it over to the course. Let me go to the same section. Here we are. So you should hopefully be seeing something like this we have an introductory video there, and at the bottom here, you can go to course, or you can use the Go to Course tab at the top. When you go through to the course, scroll down again, and you should see, you won't see it on my screen because I'm already enrolled, but around here you should see a button asking you to enroll. And then below that is the overview of all the different modules in the course. So if you could try and enroll and let us know via the chat window that you have managed to do so, that would be extremely helpful. If you're getting any problems, again, please write to us now and we'll see what we can do about addressing those straight away. It might just be a case of helping you to find the right way through these things.
Yeah, or we will follow up later. But it should be a minute exercise.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't take very long at all. It's literally an email, a password, and
it's the usual way of
click of a couple of buttons, basically. So it should be quick and easy to enroll. Everything is good. Nice to hear, Victoria. Thank you. Brilliant. So throughout the course, you will find various bits of interactivity going on. Sometimes, especially in the practical sections, there are some videos for you to watch. Those videos are also interactive. During the rest of the course, you may find some graphics where you might see a couple of purple circles with white pluses in them. These indicate hotspots and things you can click on that will reveal panels and new bits of information. So if you spot any graphics with those on, do click on them and find out a bit more details of what you're looking at. There's all sorts of other bits that you might have to do to click to reveal information, things like that as you move through, and some various quizzes and other types of sort of games to keep you interested as you move along. So hopefully the course will be interesting. Great, everything good for Elena as well. That looks like it's going well. Brilliant. Thank you, both of you. Hopefully Daria and Olga are finding their ways in as well. So we're now drawing towards the end of what we want to cover in the webinar. Just to review what we've done, we've sort of got to know each other a little bit. I'm sorry you missed that bit, Olga. We've then covered some of the very basics, a little teaser of some of the things that you can expect to find more about on the course. We've then looked at the actual course structure itself and some of the technical requirements and some of the warnings and things to be careful of. And finally, we've managed to enroll successfully onto the course, which you can now pick up and put down as you like. The course itself should take roughly between 5 to 8 hours to complete, and you can pick it up and put it down when you have time and when you feel like you want to.
Yeah.
So, Stefano, anything you'd like to?
No, I just would like now, we have probably in another 10 minutes or so. So what do you think if we just open the floor for general questions? I would suggest, I wouldn't try to address now questions around the theory of the thing, because there is the course that should be self-contained. But if you want to share with us any general question or anything that can be of interest for anyone else about how the course is structured or anything like that, please do it now. You can do it in voice, probably, if the technology allows us to do that. That could be a good idea. Can we unmute people?
Yep, yeah. I can unmute everybody. So word of warning, everybody. I think you probably now.
Okay, it's maybe we can put in. I can put in the chat the link.
Here you go, Olga. I've gone back to it there. And just as we're not finishing the webinar just yet, it's a chance for questions and answers, and I think Victoria would like to ask a few things as well towards the end. But whenever you do decide to log off from the webinar, you will have a feedback form pop up. Can we ask you please to take a short moment, if you felt that this webinar was useful and you're looking forward to the course, please just take a short moment to fill in that feedback form, because it's extremely helpful for us in trying to research and understand the effects of these types of webinars and the value of them to people. So if you could take a moment to do that, we would be very grateful whenever it is you do leave the webinar.
Okay, Victoria's answer is yes, you can contact us. I would suggest use just the email. My email that has been sent before is sam@innovation, or use LinkedIn if you like. I'm not sure when we will be able to have this chat, but probably soon. And for the rest, I don't really know if anyone else wants to ask anything.
So I've just moved us back to the email address there. That's the address you should use if you wish to contact anyone really about anything related to both the SSM tool or the course or to wider commercial discussions.
Yeah, probably to the wider commercial discussion will involve my colleague Stephen rather than me, because he's the product manager. But we can coordinate internally. So just contact me and I will be happy to organize something with the relevant person.
Okay, and just in case you're still looking for the address for the course, I'll pop it into the chat to everyone as well.
Yeah, and don't forget to give us back the ULA. It should be simple and straightforward. You need to fill in few fields in the template and send it back to me. And as soon as I will get it, I will send you the credentials for accessing the tool.
Yeah, great. Victoria, thank you very much. It's very nice to hear. We appreciate your feedback there. That's great.
No, there is no price, Daria. You are part of the data market service, so this is completely for free.
Yeah, the course is free, webinar's free, use of the tool is free until the end of October. But then at the end of October, there's no charge. You just won't be able to use it anymore. So there's no cost at all.
So that's part of the fact that you have been selected by data market service. What I was meaning before is that if you want to have commercial discussion, we are open to them, but this is a completely different discussion that does not belong in this webinar or in the training. That's all for free.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? Olga, I hope you got the course address there. Have you been able to sign up okay?
Okay, I think we can wrap up, Nick. What do you think?
I think we can. Just give it one moment more for any questions. If you get nothing in the next 10 seconds.
Okay.
Final chance, everybody. No, okay, great. Well, that looks brilliant. Well, thank you very much for all being here today. We really look forward to you enjoying the course. I'm glad that you found the webinar useful and interactive. That's really nice feedback. Thank you very much for that. And good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.